A shocking betrayal. A mother's trust shattered in an instant. Her own son, the one she raised and loved, pushed her cane away with a chilling whisper. I was just trying to get across my living room, my old cane tapping on the hardwood floor. My son, Daniel, was acting so strange, not looking at me. I called his name. "Daniel, honey, are you okay?" That's when he did it. He turned and pushed my cane away. I stumbled, my balance gone, my whole world tilted. He leaned in so close I could feel his breath, and he whispered, "Fool, it'll save us the trouble." Friend, before I go on, let me ask you, would you do me a kindness? Tap subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. It helps me see just how far my story reaches. I hit the floor so hard. The pain in my hip was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. He didn't even try to catch me. I looked up and saw his face, cold and hard. Who was this person? He wasn't my Daniel. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was his shadow, standing over me, not a single bit of warmth in his eyes. I lay there on the floor, my world spinning. Was this an accident, or did my own son really just try to hurt me? That question, like a splinter, dug into my mind and wouldn't let go. I woke up in a stark white room. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. My leg felt heavy and was wrapped in a cast. I looked over and saw him. Daniel. My son was sitting in a chair holding my hand. He looked like the worried son, the one every mother dreams of. But I had to know the truth. "Why?" I asked him, my voice just a whisper. He blinked and his face went blank. "Mom, you just tripped. I told the doctors. It was an accident." His words were calm, too calm. He never even looked me in the eye when he said it. He was a good actor, but I was his mother. I knew the difference between a real hug and a pretend one. He stayed by my side for a while, acting the part. He brought me water, adjusted my pillows. He told me he loved me, but the words felt hollow. I was a stranger to him and he was a stranger to me. I watched him text on his phone, a tiny, almost secret smile on his face. Who was he talking to? Was he telling someone about what he did? I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air of the hospital. Lying there, I couldn't stop the memory of his chilling words. A mother wants to believe her son, but a woman who has been hurt knows the difference. My heart was broken, and I couldn't tell anyone why. They sent me home in a wheelchair. My house, the place I loved, now felt like a cage. Daniel, my son, was there, but he was never really there. He was always busy, always on his phone. He avoided my eyes like I was a ghost. I tried to talk to him, to get him to look at me, but he just said, "I'm busy, Mum," and walked away. I started to notice little things, strange things. A drawer in my late husband's old desk was left slightly open, something Daniel never touched before. A dusty old box in the garage, a box full of old papers, had been moved. I just couldn't shake this feeling that he was looking for something. I would sit there in my wheelchair, just watching him. He'd go into the garage for no reason, stay for a minute, then come back out. He was jumpy, always looking over his shoulder. It was like he was hiding something big, something that went way past my little accident. The man who pushed my cane away wasn't the boy I raised. This was a man with a secret, and he was getting worse every day. I had to know what it was. I had to know what my son was up to. And I had this awful feeling that the answer was buried somewhere in this house. My neighbour, Mrs. Henderson, came over with a casserole. She's a sweet lady, the kind who always knows when you need a little kindness. She sat down, her face all worried, and said, "Sarah, honey, I'm so sorry about your fall. I saw a big black SUV parked on your street for days before it happened. It seemed so odd." I just nodded, trying to pretend it was nothing. I wanted to believe my son, Daniel, but her words made a new kind of fear bloom inside me. Was someone watching us? Was the black SUV watching him? After she left, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My heart was pounding like a drum. I went and rummaged through the trash in the kitchen. It felt wrong, like I was spying, but I had to know. And there it was, at the very bottom, a receipt from a very fancy restaurant, the kind we never went to. The credit card on it wasn't Daniel's. The name was all fancy and long. It wasn't a family name. It was a man's name. A chill went down my spine. The more I looked, the more it felt like my son wasn't just a troubled boy. He was a person with secrets. What had he gotten himself into? The next day, I had to know more. I called the office where my son Daniel was supposed to work. A nice lady answered the phone. "I'm calling about my son, Daniel," I said, my voice shaky. "Could you tell me what time he gets off today?" There was a long silence on the other end. "Oh, ma'am," she said, her voice softer now. "Daniel quit weeks ago. I'm so sorry." The phone slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. Daniel had been leaving every morning, pretending to go to work. For weeks. He had been lying right to my face. My mind raced back to that awful moment, to the cold words he whispered. "Fall. It'll save us the trouble." Now, with the mysterious credit card and the knowledge that he was unemployed, the words felt 100 times darker. He wasn't just having money problems. He was in deep trouble. Who was he working with? What kind of trouble was so big that he had to pretend to work and hide secrets from his own mother? The ground felt like it was shifting under my feet. The boy I raised was gone, and in his place was a stranger, wrapped in a web of lies and something much more scary. I couldn't stand it anymore. My body was healing, but my heart was sick with worry. I wheeled myself into my late husband Thomas's old office. I started digging through the drawers, looking for any clue, any hint of what Daniel had gotten himself into. I found a file full of old business papers. They were from Thomas's old company, which had gone broke years ago. A photo fell out of the file and onto the floor. It showed my husband, Thomas, with a much younger man, a man with the same name as the one on the fancy restaurant receipt. Suddenly the door opened. Daniel was standing there, his face as white as a sheet. His eyes were wide with panic. "Stop! You don't understand!" he screamed, his voice shaking. He wasn't mad. He was terrified. He wasn't trying to hurt me that day. The fall. It was supposed to be fake. He was trying to get me to fall into a certain spot to protect me. My mind reeled. It wasn't about him getting money. It was about something bigger, something dangerous. The man on the photo, Mr. Harrison, was a ghost from our past, and he was back to haunt us all. My son Daniel looked at the photo, then at me, and finally, he broke. All that coldness just melted away, and he started to cry. "Mum, I'm so sorry," he said. "I never wanted to hurt you." He confessed everything. The fall, the whispered words. It was all a fake accident. He was trying to make it look like I fell so we could get an insurance payout. He was in trouble, deep trouble, with a man named Mr. Harrison. This man was a loan shark, and he had been threatening Daniel for weeks. He said if Daniel didn't pay up, they would hurt me. I looked at my son's tear-streaked face. The betrayal I felt before turned to a new feeling. Fear. This wasn't just about money. This was about danger. Daniel wasn't a villain. He was a scared boy trying to protect his mum from a very bad man. But I still didn't understand why this Mr. Harrison would care about us at all. I wasn't mad at Daniel anymore. I was scared. "But why?" I asked him, my voice just a whisper. "Why us? What do we have that this Mr. Harrison wants?" Daniel took a deep breath. He told me the most shocking thing yet. The debt wasn't his. It was from an old secret loan that my late husband, Thomas, had taken out years ago. A loan he never told me about. My heart ached. I knew Thomas had struggled with his business, but he never said it got this bad. Daniel found out just a few weeks ago, after Thomas's old papers showed up. He had been trying to pay it off quietly, to protect our family's good name and Thomas's memory. My son, my sweet boy, was trying to fix a mess from the past, and he got tangled up with a very dangerous man. I was starting to realize that the past wasn't really gone. It was standing right in front of us, and it was a ghost with a very scary face. I sat with Daniel, going through the loan papers. My hands were shaking. We were looking for any way out, any small hole in the story. And there it was. A line on the loan document said, "Signature of borrower." I looked closely. That wasn't my husband's signature. I knew my husband's handwriting like my own. This was a fake. I pointed it out to Daniel. His eyes went wide. "Mum, you're right," he whispered. Daniel told me that Mr. Harrison had only ever shown him a copy of the paperwork, never the real thing. It was all a trick. The debt wasn't real. It was a lie to get what they really wanted. This wasn't about money or a loan. It was about something much, much bigger. We had to find out what that was before it was too late. My son Daniel and I knew we couldn't fight this alone. I told him we needed help, and I knew just the person. I picked up the phone and dialed the number for Mr. Thompson, my late husband's old lawyer. He was more than a lawyer. He was a family friend, a man who always gave good advice. I told him everything, about the fall, about Daniel's confession, and about the forged signature on the loan paper. "Sarah," he said, his voice grave, "I can't believe this." He promised he would help us. He said he would look into Mr. Harrison and his so-called company. But he gave us a warning that made my blood run cold. "This man isn't just a regular bad guy, Sarah," Mr. Thompson said. "He's powerful. He's got connections, a whole network of them. Be careful." I hung up the phone feeling a little better, knowing we had a good man on our side. But his words hung in the air, a shadow over everything. Just how big was this problem? With Mr. Thompson working on the legal side, my son, Daniel, started looking for answers on his computer. He's very smart with machines, a real whiz. He told me he was going to hack into a public database. I didn't really know what that meant, but I trusted him. I watched as his fingers flew across the keyboard. After a little while, he let out a gasp. He had found something. He found a long list of fake companies, shell companies as he called them. They were all linked together like a chain, and at the end of the chain all the money was going to one big place, a real estate company run by Mr. Harrison. This wasn't a loan shark with a small business. This was a powerful organization. I looked at Daniel and he looked at me, and we both knew we were in much deeper trouble than we ever thought. Mr. Thompson called us a few days later, his voice full of worry. He had found a legal paper, a small detail that changed everything. The loan, he said, wasn't just a simple loan. It was a lien against our family home. The house where I raised my son, where my husband and I spent our lives. This fake debt was just an excuse to take our home. Just then a letter came in the mail. It was a legal notice from Mr. Harrison's company. It said if we didn't pay up, they would take our land. All of it. The whole plot. This was never about money. It was about our property, our land. They wanted to take our home. Why? What could a rich man like Mr. Harrison possibly want with our little house in the suburbs? What was on our land that was so important? My son Daniel and I were just talking about our next move when there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole and my blood ran cold. It was Mr. Harrison. He was standing on our front porch, a big fake smile on his face. When I opened the door, he said, "Mrs. Peterson, I'm here to solve your problem once and for all." He offered us a check for a huge amount of money to buy our house. He tried to sound nice, saying it was just to clear up the loan from my late husband, Thomas. But his eyes were cold. There was no kindness in them. "We aren't selling," I said, my voice shaking a little. He dropped the fake smile then. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice hard. "This is your last chance." He was threatening us, right on our own front porch. He was so sure we would give in. But seeing his true colours, a cold strength filled me. This wasn't about money anymore. It was a fight for our home, and for my husband's memory. My son, Daniel, stood behind me, and together we closed the door on him. We might have lost a lot, but we weren't going to lose our home. After Mr. Harrison left, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said and did. His face was so familiar. I went to the old photo album in the attic. My hands trembled as I turned the pages. I was looking for a ghost from the past, a ghost I wasn't even sure was real. And then I found it. An old photo from a business dinner years ago. There was my husband Thomas shaking hands with a younger man, with a face full of anger, not a smile. It was Mr. Harrison. I remembered it all then. My husband had a business rival, a man who always tried to mess things up for him. Thomas used to talk about how this man was ruthless and would do anything to win. It all made sense. This wasn't just about money or our land. This was a long game of revenge. My husband's old enemy was back to finish what he started. He wanted to hurt me and my son because he couldn't beat my husband. A new fear took hold of me. What other secrets did Mr. Harrison know about our family? My son, Daniel, was still working on his computer trying to find more about Mr. Harrison. He was a whiz with computers. I was right there with him, watching over his shoulder. He told me he was trying to follow the money, to see where all of Mr. Harrison's fake companies were getting their money. Suddenly, Daniel's face went pale. "Mom, look," he said. The information was all gone, wiped clean. It was like a ghost had come and erased everything. "Someone knows we're looking," he said. The digital trail was gone. It was a professional job, not something a simple bad guy could do. We weren't fighting a man, we were fighting an entire network, a big, powerful group of people who didn't want us to find the truth. The danger felt so much bigger now. They were watching us. They knew every move we made. What would we do now that all our clues were gone? How do you fight something you can't even see? My son Daniel and I felt so lost after our digital trail went cold. We knew we were being watched, and it felt like we had nowhere left to turn. I went into my late husband Thomas's old office. It was a place full of his things, a place I hadn't really been in since he passed. I was tidying up, wiping dust off a bookshelf when my hand brushed against the floor. I felt a loose spot. My heart started to race. I pushed on the floorboard, and it lifted up, showing a small space carved out beneath. Inside was a small, fireproof metal box. It was a secret my husband had kept. I opened the box with a trembling hand. Inside was a little notebook and a small flash drive. I opened the journal first. My husband's handwriting filled the pages. He wrote about Mr. Harrison and how he was afraid of him. My husband wrote down his plan to expose Mr. Harrison's dirty secrets. But then the journal stopped. The last words were, "If you're reading this, I've run out of time." I looked at the little flash drive. I knew it must hold something important, but it was locked. We had found a hidden piece of the puzzle, but we still couldn't see the whole picture. My son Daniel is so smart with computers. He worked on that flash drive for hours, but it was locked tight. He said it was like a secret code he couldn't break. But he had an idea. He used his computer skills to find out about Mr. Harrison's company. He found out about a big meeting. He told me, "Mum, look at this. Mr. Harrison is meeting with the city's zoning board members." Daniel explained that if Mr. Harrison could get them to agree, our land would be worth millions. It would be a big commercial space, not a quiet street with houses. That's why he wanted our home so badly. Our house was in the perfect spot for his evil plan. Suddenly, a little piece of paper fell out of Daniel's notebook. It was a list of all the people at the meeting. We looked at the names on the list. I didn't know any of them, but Daniel's eyes got wide. He pointed to one name. "Mom," he said, his voice a whisper. "That's the same man who signed the forged loan document." A chill went through me. This wasn't just a business plan. It was a deep, long-held scheme. My son Daniel and I stared at the name on the paper. The man who forged the loan was on Mr. Harrison's team. It wasn't about a loan, not really. It was all a setup, a trick from the very start. Mr. Harrison wasn't just a rich, greedy businessman. He was a man holding a grudge. I thought back to the old photo of him and my late husband Thomas at that business dinner. My husband wrote in his journal that Mr. Harrison tried to ruin him years ago. He was a man full of hate. This wasn't about money. This was about revenge. He didn't want to take our house for a new building. He wanted to take it to hurt me, to hurt my son, to finish what he couldn't do to Thomas. I looked at Daniel, and I saw a new kind of fear in his eyes. He wasn't afraid for himself anymore. He was afraid for me. He was afraid for our family. And that's when I knew we had to fight back. We had to expose him, not just for us, but for my husband too. My son, Daniel, and I looked at each other, the weight of everything we learned pressing down on us. Mr. Harrison wasn't just after our house. He wanted to hurt my husband's memory and our family. We knew we couldn't go to the police. He was too powerful. We had to fight back in the open where everyone could see. We came up with a plan, a crazy, dangerous plan. Mr. Harrison was hosting a big party, a charity gala for his real estate company, with all the important people in the city there. We would crash the party. We would go there and use the secrets we found on the flash drive to show everyone what a truly evil man he was. Daniel was afraid. "Mum, this is crazy. He has security," he said, his voice shaky. "We can't do this." But I had found a new strength inside of me. This was for my husband, Thomas, and it was for our future. We were going to walk into the lion's den, and we were going to expose the monster. This was our only chance to win and to make sure he could never hurt anyone again. It was time to show him we weren't just a couple of old people. My son Daniel is a genius with computers. He was looking online for anything about Mr. Harrison's company when he found a man on a public forum. This man used to work for Mr. Harrison. He was so angry at his old boss that he was talking about all the bad things the company did. Daniel reached out to him. The man, a systems analyst, told us something that changed everything. The files we had on the flash drive, the ones we couldn't open, were just copies of Mr. Harrison's own personal computer server. The man told us that if we could get to Mr. Harrison's own computer and plug in our flash drive, the files would become unlocked. He said the flash drive would become like a key that would open the door to all of his secrets. My heart started to beat faster. This was our chance. The man told us that Mr. Harrison always brought his personal server with him to big events. All we needed to do was find it at the charity gala. We had our plan. Now we had a way to make it work. My son, Daniel, and I met the man from the internet at a public library. He looked nervous, kept looking over his shoulder. He told us his name, and then he pulled out a piece of paper with a drawing on it. "I'm going to give you the last piece of the puzzle," he said. He told us that Mr. Harrison's secret server wasn't just at the gala, it was in a secret room. A small room with a door that no one would notice, a little office where Mr. Harrison went to take calls and get away from all the noise. The man gave us a small map he had drawn, showing exactly where it was. He warned us to be careful. He said, "Mr. Harrison has eyes and ears everywhere. If he finds out you're there, you're in big trouble." But with the map in our hands, we knew we had a real chance. We had the flash drive and we had the key to open it. We had to do this. We had to find that little room and expose him to everyone at that gala. The night of the gala came. My son Daniel and I dressed in our best clothes. I was in a blue dress I hadn't worn since my husband Thomas was alive. Daniel wore a suit that was too big for him. We felt like strangers in our own skin, but we were ready for a fight. The big hotel ballroom was full of people. They were laughing and drinking fancy things. We saw Mr. Harrison across the room, smiling and shaking hands, looking like the most important man in the world. He spotted us right away. His smile went away and he said something to his guards. Two big men in dark suits started walking towards us. "Come on, Mum," Daniel whispered. We moved through the crowd, pretending to look for the bathrooms, and slipped away from them. It was like a game of cat and mouse. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. I just kept thinking about my home and what my husband would have wanted me to do. We found a quiet hallway and ducked inside. We were in the building, but now we had to find the secret room. We found the small door in the hallway just like the man at the library said we would. It was plain and easy to miss. Daniel pushed it open and we went inside. The room was dark, lit only by a computer screen. There it was, Mr. Harrison's personal server, just sitting there. Daniel took out the flash drive. His hands were shaking a little. "Here we go, Mum," he said. He plugged the flash drive into the server. A little bar popped up on the screen, a line of green light that showed the files were being copied. But the bar moved so slowly. It felt like every second was an hour. We stood there holding our breath, listening for any sound in the hallway outside. It was a race against time. What if we got caught? What if someone came in and saw us? Every moment was a huge risk. The screen just blinked, blinking so slowly as if it was teasing us. The clock was ticking and we knew we were so close to the truth, so close to exposing everything. But we weren't out of the woods yet. Just as the green bar on the computer screen got to the end, the door to the room opened. My heart jumped into my throat. We were caught, but it wasn't a guard. It was a woman with wide, panicked eyes. I knew her face. It was Linda, my best friend, the one who brought me food after my fall. "Sarah, Daniel, what are you doing here?" she whispered. Her voice was full of fear. She looked at the computer, then at us. "You have to get out of here. He knows you're here." Daniel looked at her, confused. "Linda, what are you talking about? How do you know?" And that's when she told us the most unbelievable thing. She had been meeting with Mr. Harrison all along. He had tricked her into spying on us. She had been telling him what we were doing, where we were going. She looked at the little light on the ceiling and pointed. "That's a camera," she whispered. "He's been watching you this whole time." The betrayal I felt from my own son was nothing compared to this. My best friend. My heart broke all over again. My son Daniel and I were speechless. Linda, my best friend, had been spying on us for Mr. Harrison. She was crying and she confessed everything. She told us how Mr. Harrison had used her, telling her that my late husband, Thomas, had done something terrible to him. He tricked her. She thought she was helping a man who had been wronged, but all along she was helping a monster. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," she said. "He told me he had proof of the debt, but he never showed me. He told me it was a secret I couldn't tell anyone." Then she pointed to the ceiling. "He put tiny cameras and listening things in your house. He's been watching you this whole time." The betrayal was so deep, but seeing her face, filled with so much pain, I knew she was a victim too. She wasn't an enemy. She was a scared friend who had been used as a pawn. She gave us a new key to a bigger server she knew about and begged us to expose him. We had a choice to make: get revenge on her or work with her to take down the real bad guy. We chose to work together. The whole gala was buzzing. We could hear the sounds of laughter and music from the other room. Daniel and I, with Linda's help, found the main room where the big screen was. Daniel used the new key Linda gave him to get into the system. In the middle of Mr. Harrison's big speech about his company, the screen suddenly changed. All the people stopped talking and looked up. A video started to play. It was Mr. Harrison in his secret office talking on the phone. We heard him confessing to everything. We heard him say he wasn't just after our home for money. He wanted revenge on my late husband, Thomas. He said how he had messed with Thomas's old business and how my husband was the only one who ever figured it out. We heard him bragging about how he would take our house and get away with it. People in the crowd started to whisper. Their faces went from shock to angry. This wasn't some silly story. It was all real, right there on the screen. The room exploded. People were screaming. Some were pointing at Mr. Harrison. He stood there on the stage, his face white as a sheet, his fancy suit looking so small. His whole world was falling apart right in front of his eyes. Someone called the police, and in just a few minutes, officers arrived and put handcuffs on him. He didn't say a word. He just stared at us, a look of pure hatred in his eyes. He had been planning this for years, and in one night, it was all gone. The humiliation was complete. This wasn't a secret anymore. The whole city knew what he did. We won. My son Daniel and I stood there, watching it all happen. We were no longer scared. We were just tired. The fight was over. The bad guy was gone. We had gotten justice, not just for ourselves, but for my late husband Thomas, who couldn't fight anymore. But a question lingered in my mind. What about the secrets my husband kept in that journal? Was there more to the story? Was there still something else out there? After the police took Mr. Harrison away, my son Daniel went back to the secret room to finish downloading the files from the server. He was so quiet, so focused. I was just watching him, feeling tired but so relieved. Then he found one last folder, a hidden one, with a special lock on it. He opened it, and his face changed. It wasn't a document about Mr. Harrison. It was from his father, my late husband Thomas. Inside, there was an old will and a letter meant for Daniel. My heart started pounding. Thomas had known all this time. The so-called debt wasn't a real debt. It was a test, a final test from a father to his son. My husband knew that one day Mr. Harrison would come back. He wanted to see if Daniel would be brave enough to protect me, no matter what. He had prepared for this moment, but he never got to see it happen. Back at our house, it was quiet. The chaos was over. Daniel and I sat in the living room, a place that had seen so much pain but now felt peaceful. We finally had the talk we should have had long ago. "Mum," Daniel said, his voice soft, "I'm so sorry I lied to you. I was just trying to protect you. I didn't know how to tell you what was happening." I looked at him, my sweet boy. The fear in his eyes was gone. In its place was a quiet strength. "And I'm sorry," I said, "for not trusting you right away. I should have known my son would never try to hurt me." We hugged each other, and it was a real hug this time. We had both been so hurt and so scared, but the fight brought us closer. The anger and hurt from my fall was all gone. We were a family again, stronger than ever before. We had gone through a terrible time, but it brought us back to each other. We started to put our lives back together. My leg was healing, and we were fixing up our home. It wasn't just a house anymore, it was a symbol of everything we fought for. We were a team now, bonded by our secret and our strength. The pain of the past was finally gone. But as we were looking through the last of Mr. Harrison's files, Daniel found something strange. A little symbol. He said it was a sign for a big secret group that Mr. Harrison was part of. The revenge was a small part of a bigger plan. Just then, a package arrived. It was from the man who helped us from the library. Inside was a letter. It said we had to be careful. It said Mr. Harrison was just one man, and the real enemy was a powerful organization that would not give up. It said we were targets now. This wasn't the end of our story, it was just the beginning, just the